Rotogrinders? Dean here. Dean7904. That is the daily fantasy handle around the industry. We're talking tonight's 7-game NBA DFS slate the day after the trade deadline. Still some pieces shuffling in and out. Some guys might be available. Some guys won't be available. We'll see. Going to do our best to stay on top of that. 7-gamer should be a fun one. This is like the perfect number. What's up, TJ? How are things in your world? Any thoughts as far as yesterday's slates? Any thoughts as far as tonight's 7-gamer? Man, I almost got there last night. Hamidou Diallo was my separator, and all I needed was Devin Booker to do Devin Booker things. And unfortunately, Chris Paul said, I'm just going to do everything. So that was kind of a bummer. But hey, Daily Fantasy Sports about tonight and tonight only. What are our thoughts as far as tonight?
Life in my world is doing pretty well. Last night went well for me. I think I put up like 360 something. So I 4x my entry fee, something like that. So it was a good night. I'm excited about tonight as well. I love these 5 to 8 game slates. We got a 7-game tonight. It's my favorite kind of size. I'm excited.
Also, fresh fade narrative. You got a haircut.
Heck yes. No more toques for me, Dean. I'm ready to show off my whole head.
And how did your flag football game go? No injuries. You came out unscathed.
Came out unscathed. There was only 5 guys. I played quarterback. Started my first game at quarterback since 8th grade. It was a lot of fun.
There you go. Carlucci, what's up, Justin? Can you give a better anecdote? If you were on Jeopardy, what would be your Jeopardy anecdote as we introduce you? Would it be better than your flag football prowess?
No, I don't know. Terrible with pronunciations. Glad the Grizzlies aren't on the slate. Chat loves when I say things incorrectly. It's me. We're here. Crazy couple of nights in NBA, right? A lot of value opening up. Played the 3 max last night. Had Luka on 2 of my 3 teams. Oof. Neither of my Luka teams cashed. My team without Luka cashed. So go figure. But it was a swap away. OG crushed me. It was all Gary Trent. Siakam didn't even get there. Like, it was all Gary Trent. He took all the points. He took all the steals. He took everything. Gary Trent. It was a Gary Trent game. And so crazy night. Things are finally shaking out a little bit here. It'll be nice to hit the reset button after the All-Star break, and hopefully there's not like 8 3K guys in play every night again. And needless to say, it's Friday. We're gonna get cracking here, and we still have some NBA. We got some new faces in some new places. Dean Halliburton's in Indy, etc. Tristan Thompson's having a baby. TJ said so. That's how.
Well, no, not for a while. Like, he's had some, and we talked about it pre-show. We're talking about Tristan Thompson, and he had one with one of the Kardashians, or I was
trying to search his availability, and like all of the things that came up were all Kardashian drama and pregnancy stuff. There's a lot to sift through to find out that apparently he will be in the building and available for today's game.
Yeah, I think those quotes are important because there's thoughts of him potentially getting bought out as well. Which, like, if you're gonna buy the guy out, like, why make him show up? Take a photo op, and then I don't know. Because, like, the guys that came along with him, Halliburton should be available. Buddy Hield should be available too. And then we have an instant revenge game. First blood revenge for Karis LeVert on the other side. And, like, Garland's like, hey, you know what? I'll step aside. I won't even play. I'll let you do your thing. I have a good time. So, Karis LeVert revenge game on the other side too. And White for Boston is at least in the city. I don't know if he's available or not. Stay tuned on stuff like that. Of course, San Antonio traded Derek White to Boston. Some other pieces will come along throughout the conversation. But Justin, your 76ers, Harden's on layaway, but you got Embiid tonight versus OKC is like, that's like the prize piece, the big spend. Where that's our first game we're going to talk about as far as the 7-game slate. We're going to break it down in just a second, obviously, but I think that's a decision point because it's one of those things where the matchup, you could talk yourself into the idea, the matchup's almost too good, where he's going to smash and pummel too much that maybe he doesn't get to do that for 4 quarters, just 3 quarters. And OKC on the other side, of course, there are 14-point dogs here. 207 is the total, not a very appealing number. But point me in the direction of the person that's going to slow down Joel Embiid and OKC, Justin. I'll wait.
You'll be waiting a while because it's not going to be like Derek Favors. Derek Favors. It's not going to be Kendrick Williams.
I have the answer.
Poku.
Oh,
okay. Who is it?
The spread.
Yeah.
The spread might slow down Joel Embiid tonight, not playing in the 4th quarter.
Well, it's one of those dumb things. I'm sure Justin will probably believe me, but like Philadelphia seems to be one of those teams that just sort of like you always, oh, they're going to blow that team out. And then somehow they're like down 6 to start of the fourth quarter. And like, you know, Embiid's got like 39 and 12. And it's like, I'm a big dummy for not playing him because I thought the game was going to blow out. And that may or may not be true. That's just maybe my personal experience of like, thinking about Philadelphia and like when I want to play these guys. Like, but is that, you know, Philadelphia playing down to their competition? We've heard that many times. I felt from Philadelphia fans, and maybe that's like gotten to my brain now too. But I feel that as well. Is that true, or is that just something we made up?
Dive back in, Justin. I cut you off to make a bad joke. So
No. Listen, we're gonna get along just fine because I'm full of bad jokes on the show. So. Yeah, they do. And you know, you take away Seth Curry, you would think that maybe OKC sticks around a little bit here. You know, a week and a half ago, Tyrese Halliburton single-handedly kept the Kings in that game, right? That was like the last terrible opponent I think they played. So I think for me, if you're playing Embiid, like I'm playing the 3 max tonight, I'm going to find someone on the other side to pair Embiid with. That way, if I'm getting 4 quarters out of Embiid, hopefully I can pick the right OKC piece. And it's funny saying that, but I think there are OKC pieces that you can still play. We've seen some price increases and, you know, they're not as attractive. But I think there is at least someone on the other side that you're like, yeah, you know what, I could run this back with Embiid. Maxi's really expensive now. What are your guys' thoughts on Maxi? A little too rich for my blood.
He's questionable for what it's worth. I should have said that. Maxi and Milton, they're both questionable. Milton, we haven't seen for a while. OKC, I'm surprised Isaiah Roby's back. Like you figure you say, give me one more day. I don't want to see Embiid, but he's available. Of course, they're without Muscala and Wiggins. Jerry up for a while. SGA not going to play for a good while either. They did trade for KZ Okpala. I don't know his availability. I don't know if he would even be a guy. Well, he probably would get a little run. Sure, why not? Because it's OKC. And well, we'll throw it to you. I want to get your thoughts, TJ, as far as Embiid. Like, is he a centerpiece for your lineups tonight? Because you know it's a main decision point right now. We have him at 42% owned on FanDuel. On DK, we got him at 17% owned. So you know, different conversation depending on where you're shopping. But what are your thoughts as far as Embiid?
He's probably the best spend all the way up option on the slate. Like I said, I have a little bit of bull concern just because, not that we try and predict that, but it is a 14-point spread. If Milton and Maxi are both out, I'm going to feel a little bit differently just because they are going to be running so thin at guards. They're probably going to have to be playing Isaiah Joe, like 28, 32 minutes if that's the case. And Korkmaz point guard minutes the other times. So if that's the case, I like Embiid a lot just because he's going to have to be shooting every single possession, even more so than he otherwise would. And maybe that game can stay a little bit closer. On FanDuel, I don't think I would run it back with any of these guys on OKC. On DraftKings, I don't mind the prices quite as much. You have Kenrich Williams at only 4.4 over there. I don't mind that, but on FanDuel, I'm probably going to be not running it back with anyone on OKC.
Yeah, I mean, the GM pretty much said like Giddey, we're going to keep him at 30 minutes. We don't want to go beyond that, and that makes sense. I mean, they're not really trying to win, and you know what's the point? Why would you push him too hard? But that's the thing, Justin. Like you're talking about runbacks on OKC, and it's just Kenrich Williams is, I guess, interesting. He's fine, but he doesn't really play enough minutes. And the best play I like on OKC, who helped me out the other night too, was Poku. The tricky part with him is like you kind of want to blow out if you're going to play Poku, and then you don't necessarily pair him with Embiid. I guess theoretically they both can get there in the same game, but that's like kind of my favorite play amongst if you're going to force me to pick. And I want to play Embiid too, and they don't necessarily mesh, I don't think. But what are your thoughts on Justin? Who would be your run back on OKC? Because Kenrich is another guy, presumably coming off the bench. Poku is a guy that's going to close on a blowout, almost definitely. Why not develop him a little bit? Who do you have as far as your favorite Thunder?
You guys both made really good points. They're kind of priced a little out of my comfort zone on FanDuel, but on DraftKings, that 44 is a good price for Kenrich. He's been pretty good, and no one ever feels comfortable clicking the Kenrich Williams button. I played him at 3 or 4% the other day, and he was fantastic. You look at his numbers the last 5 games, 23, 28, 13, 32, 33. Serviceable at 55, more than good enough at 44. So I like Kenrich Williams, and he might fall into that zone. Like if they're going to limit Giddey to around 30 minutes, that has to assure a couple more ticks for some other people. And maybe Kenrick is kind of in that weird zone between, we need you to play meaningful minutes, but also if we're down 25, we don't really care about you and you can still run some blowout. So I think for that reason, he might be my favorite. Darius Baisley's been better. His price is getting up there too. No one is projected to really own him on DK. The problem is on FanDuel, where Embiid's carrying all that ownership, like you guys were talking about, the Thunder are priced higher. And that stinks because you want to maybe like differentiate yourself a little bit with Embiid by maybe running it back and mitigate some of that ownership. Maybe you get away with a one-off on DK for tournaments. He's projected to come in sub 20%, which is still kind of crazy for Joel Embiid on this slate. So I'm gonna have Kenrick shares on DK. Dort has been fine, 63, a little cheaper on DK than FanDuel. It just seems like wings always carve the Sixers. They always have sport good defensive stats, but I said it on one of the Grinders lives last week. It almost is like the Sixers have a backwards approach than most teams. Most teams want to take away the stars and let the role players beat you. It seems like Halliburton or Devin Booker or Jaylen Brown is always dumping 40 on Philly for some reason. I don't know why. So I kind of like Dort. My guess is Matisse is probably going to be on Giddey. So you have two like defensive moguls here, right? So I don't know. What are your thoughts? And then all these Sixers pieces on DK, they're very volatile, but Matisse is cheap. It depends on the injuries, TJ, like you were talking about Shake and Maxey. Korkmaz becomes an elite value play if Maxey's out, right? Do you guys agree there?
Yeah, I would assume so. Maxey, we projected at 36 minutes, Milton for 13. I don't think we've seen Milton in like, what, 3-4 weeks or something like that?
Yeah,
I can't imagine they'll push him too hard. We've seen Furkan step in. We have a prize pick selection, which we'll talk about soon enough, but prize picks does FanDuel
January 3rd was the last time we saw Shake Milton, so over a month ago.
Yeah, and why would you bring him back versus home versus OKC? Like maybe
I guess if Maxey can't go, I guess maybe that would be a way. But if both of them are out, I think some of the very best value on this slate is going to be coming from this game. Korkmaz will be great. No one wants to play Isaiah Joe, but at minimum price, if he's going to be getting over 30 minutes and he's starting, it's definitely tempting. To reference back to your Embiid question, I think if you're playing cash games tonight, especially on FanDuel, he's one of the very first people you plug in. You're playing cash games, you click Joel Embiid, you click LaMelo Ball, and then you move on from there. But in tournaments tonight, I think I'm probably going to be moving away from that just because we have Embiid with quadruple the ownership of Jokic right now. Yeah, Embiid's in a good spot and he's an amazing player, but Jokic is still the better fantasy point per minute guy, and he has a quarter of the ownership. So yeah, I think I'll be underweight to him in tournaments tonight. I
have some thoughts on Jokic. We'll talk about, and kind of discussing why that ownership is what it is. And it's as far as betting purposes, I was on the betting show earlier today with Grant, the Scores and Odds show. That's I think Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 2:00 on the East Coast, and took the under 9.5 assists. We'll talk about that one soon enough. But of course, like Jokic is like incredible, and if you can get him on a 7-game slate at 5% or something like that. What number do we currently have him at? I assume it's pretty low.
Yeah, I'm seeing basically anywhere between like 5 and 10% throughout the day.
Yeah, which is you could just blindly play Jokic in 5 or 10% on a 7-game slate, and you're probably profitable.
And to be clear, interestingly enough, neither of them are my favorite pay up option on the slate.
Oh boy, there's a tease for the rest of the show. I was going to click off, but now I'm going to stay. I'm going to stick around for the rest of the show. Bible, by the way, I like him from a betting perspective over 1.5 steals. He averages like 2.7 per 36, averages 1.7 in the season. Those are like 36 minutes. Of course, they lost Curry as well too, so they're a little bit thin. I should say that they have plenty of bodies. Philadelphia has a bunch of dudes. Like I don't know who's going to play. Like they have, like you mentioned, Isaiah Joe, Charlie Brown, Miles Powell, Paul Reed. They called up. They have Jaden Springer. There's a lot of guys in uniform, so they're not like actual fit on bodies. And if this game gets ugly, you don't even need like Niang to mop up. Like he's too good to mop up. That
was a 2K generated name draft class right there.
Niang?
No, all those names that you just said.
I got you.
Yeah, that's Paul after Reed. You play. You're in like season 2028 of NBA 2K and you're drafting players and they're all just completely name generated. That's what that was.
What about the guys not named Embiid or TJ? You just kind of taking the stand like if this game blows out, I'm just going to hope, and also, just kind of focus elsewhere. You're concentrating on tournaments and you're kind of taking stands on certain things. Are you just kind of crossing Philadelphia out altogether? Like, Tobias Harris is right there. If you want to play him, you can play him, sure. But, he's just sort of priced what he should be, and he's probably not breaking the slate. Any thoughts as other Philadelphia guys is beyond Embiid?
I'm hoping we get to revisit this a little bit closer to the end of the show if we get a little bit of this Maxey and Milton news, just because if Maxey and Milton are both in, I'm going to be underweight on Embiid and I'm probably not going to play much else.
Yeah.
If both of those guys are out, then I'm going to be completely shifting my mindset and I might be going to Embiid and seeing based on the starting lineup who else I want to put in there.
Justin, what do you have? Clean up your 76ers.
A lot of cleaning up to do. Seth Curry just being away, even just it makes a difference. You're looking at our court IQ tool. You take Curry off the court, and we're talking decent sample size, 275 Joel Embiid minutes. A guy who's a usage monster gets another 4% bump just without Seth Curry. 1.73 DK points per minute. Tobias also gets a 2.7% usage bump, another 5 fantasy points per minute. Listen, it always stinks to play Tobias Harris. He has no ceiling. Every time I think he has a ceiling, he drops like 25 in the first half and has like 6 fantasy points. And then the last 2 quarters, it's just maddening. There is leverage with Tobias Harris, though. The Sixers have a good team total. OKC stinks. Curry out makes a difference. And I think it'll get really interesting if Maxey sits as well. I'd like to see, I would imagine Tobias would probably be pretty chalky. Is he cheaper on FanDuel? No, he's more on FanDuel. I mean, his price is getting up there, but Tobias Harris is interesting right now. But if we get some injury news, he'll probably be fairly popular. But you know what? Like, man, I'm gonna hate myself in saying that maybe I'll play Tobias Harris on the team after seeing how much Curry actually did matter. Because he'll probably go for exactly like 39 DK points as he always does. But 1% ownership, no one's going to have him. It's a great matchup. It's in the range of outcomes, folks.
The biggest number on FanDuel, of course, is Embiid at 42%. We have a still minimum FanDuel pricing. Niang at 3.5 is 11% as far as ownership. And that's at 24 minutes. I think it can bump up if the other guys are out, obviously. We got Thibault at 5 or 6% at 4.4. He can pay that salary off in theory on stocks like OKC. Well, one of the worst teams as far as getting blocks, as far as the ball getting stolen as well. But there's kind of a ceiling as far as him actually scoring points in the bucket. I do think before we move on, it's just kind of interesting. Poku is currently projected. This stuff can change. Everything's fluid. 2 hours from lock. A lot of news is going to drop, but we have 21% ownership on Poku on DK. I mean, I don't want to say it's a chase because we know he's a good fantasy point-minute player. It's just those minutes are kind of fragile, and we're projecting 22 minutes. I don't know if I like him at 22% ownership. I did like him as like a tournament dart where he was like 7% the other day, whatever it was. That's interesting. Danny Green at 15%. Like, I'm just not playing Danny Green. Just Justin, you tell me, like, what's the ceiling on Danny Green? Like, it's, I assume pretty well as a 76ers fan that what are you hoping for? Like 4 steals and 3 threes, like something like that?
Yeah, you're baiting me into a Danny Green rant. I know you are. I'm not going to fall. I'm not going to bite on the line this time. But
you're hoping he's back on the San Antonio Spurs and or the Raptors in the playoffs.
Correct.
Yeah, I forgot he was on the was he on the Raptors championship team?
Yes, sir.
There you go. Shout out Raptors. Let's move on.
Raptors.
Charlotte's in Detroit tonight. 226.5 is the total. Detroit is a 6.5 point favorite. They are on the back end of a back-to-back. That is the Pistons. Cunningham is questionable once again. They traded for Marvin Bagley. Marvin Bagley is not expected to be available. Charlotte traded away Ish Smith, but they should get James Bouknight, who is back from his wrist. They also traded for Montrezl Harrell, who he's on track. He appears to be on track. I don't know if it's official, but signs are looking good that he should be available tonight. And Cody Martin is out, of course, with his ankle still. I'll throw it to you, TJ. The Hornets are still going to play their guys a bunch of minutes. The matchup, of course, against Detroit's pretty positive. You referenced LaMelo already. Rozier is a solid play. Oubre. Bridges, Washington, those guys a little more fringy, I think, but when you consider salary. But talk to me about the Hornets.
Yeah, LaMelo Ball is my favorite play of the entire slate. That's not who I was even referring to for my favorite pay up option, just because I barely even think he's a pay up option, because on FanDuel he is only 83, 84, 100. Yeah, 8,400. So we have him projected mid 30% own, and I don't think that's near high enough. They're low on bodies in the backcourt. There's no Hayward, there's no Martin. They got rid of Ish Smith. He's going to play high 30s minutes, and the only thing that's held LaMelo Ball back all year is when he doesn't get minutes. And so we're expecting him to get a bunch of minutes. 6.5 spread isn't a ton. And even if it gets big, it's not like they have a ton of bodies right now. So LaMelo Ball is my favorite play of the slate, and he's your first person in cash games. And if I'm playing lots of lineups, I'm getting overweight on.
We got a dog that's a big fan of LaMelo as well. Man. So by the way, I want to wager. I know who your favorite big spend on the slate is. I know who it is. I feel very confident on this. I want to be able to bet on this. Justin, do you have a guess as far as who TJ's favorite big spend is on the slate for tournaments? Obviously, I got it.
TJ, are you on FanDuel or DK today?
FanDuel guy.
Oh man, your dog is pumped. I'm gonna say
they're going wild. I'm keeping on mute.
I'm gonna say it's Karl Anthony Towns. That's my best guess.
All right, I'm gonna see your Karl Anthony Towns, and it's gotta be DeJounte Murray. DeJounte Murray with the absence of White. I think it's DeJounte Murray, and maybe run it back with Trae Young or something like that.
It's
but
gotta be, he says. It's
DeJounte Murray. DeJounte Murray is the correct answer.
Yes.
Collusion. You guys.
Dean, I'm happy you brought up this idea, because something else we're going to be doing is when I'm on the show, because I have my superhero podcast, The Agents of Fandom, we do the TJ's superhero play of the day that we announce at the end of the show. And what the superhero play of the day is it somebody from the late set of games. When your back is against the wall, your lineup's not looking good, a player from the late set of games is going to come in and save the day, get you above that min cash line, or help you win that tournament. So the superhero play of the day is coming at the end from the late set of games. We want you to guess who it is in the chat, because we're going to give away a prize. We're going to give away a free week of premium, or RG shirt, something like that.
Hey, when you say late slate, because there's only one game after 8:00, so is this person from Orlando and Utah, and who's going to save me in Orlando?
Yeah, we're gonna just go that game today. That's the only one we're gonna go with today, just because I think there's too many options otherwise, and I like making it kind of fun and sneaky.
But it can't be Robin Lopez. He's in the late slate, not only because he's going to play 6 minutes, but doesn't he tackle all of the superhero mascots before each game or something? So,
yeah, Robin Lopez is not a fan of mascots.
All right, so it's never Robin Lopez.
Disney, right? I mean, that's part of the reason I think why he actually signed with Orlando. He loves Disney World. I think both him and his brother are big comic book fans. You probably know this, TJ, aren't they?
Yeah. I think it's a love-hate joke. It's a love-hate joke how he always tackles them, but I actually do think he's really into that stuff.
Yeah. The Lopez brothers are big into that stuff, and yeah, there are some famous videos of him having some fun little scuffles with mascots for sure. Back to Charlotte's. Justin, if you're going to power rank the Hornets, you're most interested in, obviously salary matters. FanDuel, the Rozier price is pretty appealing at 6.4K, which is why we're getting a 47% ownership over there. Ball at 8.4 seems too low as well. 30%, Oubre 24%. Then Washington and Bridges are in the teens. We're projecting 22 minutes for Montrezl Harrell for what it's worth, but there's some fragility in that projection. That seems like a reasonable number. On DK, Ball at 35% ownership, Rozier at 21, Oubre at 27, and then it falls off a table. Bridges is pretty expensive, so we're looking at 3% there. Of course, that's interesting for tournaments, if nothing else. What do you have, Justin, as far as your favorite Hornets?
It's the guards. I think there's this is a condensed rotation now too. Sure, you're adding in Harrell, but that's fine. So good point about needing the minutes. We're projecting LaMelo for 38, which is so much for an elite point per minute producer. like LaMelo a lot. I agree with your take on playing him in cash games, but this could be a night where you want to run him somewhere in your tournament lineups too. Definitely have exposure to him in your 150, or if you're 150 max, and just it comes down to how aggressive do you want to be on these guards. Very strong point total. Rozier always plays a bunch of minutes, but he's actually playing good basketball too. And I think Oubre's price is getting up there, but I like him for tournaments too. I would probably cap my Hornets at 2 for tournaments. I'm not going to go crazy. It's not like any of them are super cheap, but I definitely think they're all in play here. So per dollar though, for tournaments, I think Rozier's my favorite tournament option. LaMelo is like nipping at the heels there. LaMelo is the cash game play though, for sure, everywhere. And then it's Oubre for me. So those are the 3 I'm most interested in.
You mentioned the chat there, TJ. Do want to say what's up to the chat there? And if you're on YouTube, it's like, well, where's the chat at? We moved to our Discord channel. What's up, YouTube? Hit that like button. We appreciate that. Helps us out with the old algorithm, keeps the proverbial lights on. Do subscribe, do turn on notifications, and join our Discord. Doesn't cost you anything. There are some premium Discord channels. This one is a non-premium channel. It's rotogrinders.com/Discord. Go to the live stream chat channel, which right below Chief's prop shop, which is also for anybody not necessarily premium. And I see some people are throwing off some guesses there. What's up there, chat? They're firing away, and somebody's going to be randomly selected. I assume if they get it correctly. And I see at least one person has guessed it correctly. I do know the name. I've seen the graphic. So somebody did get this right as far as the superhero player of the day. But yeah, keep guessing. Sure, why not? Fire away there and throw off your questions too. We're going to have time to answer any questions you guys have in chat regarding the slate. And, give us specifics, of course. Let us know if it's for FanDuel or DraftKings or cash or tournaments, or if it's a single entry or large field. And the more details, the better. It makes it easier to answer the question.
I considered it crazy. I considered a crazy dark horse too. So we'll see if somebody can guess that one. But while we're still on Charlotte, I got to say for FanDuel, for tournaments, this is not the case for cash, but for tournaments, I feel like I want to almost X out Terry Rozier. He's the highest owned player on the slate. Objectively, he's a great play, but like he hasn't eclipsed 40 points since, okay, it was 10 days ago. That's not that long ago. but that was his only one in the last 2.5 weeks. And like, he should do well. He should 5x, 6x. But if he's going to be pushing close to 50% ownership, to me, I just want to get away from that tonight. I'd rather be overweight on Ball, because to me, Ball, Bridges, and Rozier on FanDuel are all relatively underpriced to the same level. Obviously, Rozier is the cheapest of the 3 of them, and I think that's why he's getting the most ownership, but all 3 of them are underpriced. So I would rather be overweight on Ball and Bridges, who aren't crazy overowned, as opposed to Rozier, who is.
What do you have as far as the Pistons? And I think typically I like to just ignore them if I can. I don't really think you can get away with completely ignoring them on FanDuel, because Jeremy Grant is 5'2", which seems a little bit too cheap for him. Cunningham, we don't know if he's playing or not. He hasn't played in 4 games in a row. I assume he's not, but he's currently projected in. We shall see. Projections will change, obviously. We see Kelly Olynyk, stone minimum on FanDuel. Good fantasy point minute player. Of course, the minutes have been kind of fickle. He didn't get the blowout run last night, which was interesting. Detroit gave Sadiq Bey, I think, played the entire 4th quarter. I know it's not his direct backup. He's basically a direct backup to Stewart.
Their blowout run was their entire starting lineup and Frank Jackson. I was so upset because that strong lineup I was talking about last night had Kelly Olynyk.
Yeah, it was really weird. And what they're being I don't know if they're just trying to see what kind of combinations they have, or you never really know what teams' motivations are. But yeah, it was an odd lineup to have out there where you're down 25 or something like that. And I thought, oh, here comes Olynyk at some point, and it just didn't happen. And he didn't even get run in the first half where Beef Stew got in the foul trouble, and they gave it to Garza. So it's hard to sort of figure, but you got to think he's going to get 20 minutes or so, and not really going to smash that, but he can put up 27 points in 15-20 minutes, whatever it is. Yeah. Well, what do you have here, TJ, as far as the Pistons? Because they're not fun. And Hamidou Diallo, he starts in the absence, who also closed, like you said, he also closed in a blowout. He started in the absence of Cunningham, and he was great, and he smashed, and he's still a good price if Cunningham's out.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't mind these Detroit guys. Like Grant on FanDuel is one of the top options on the entire slate. Another cash game option. Olenek's looking pretty highly owned right now, but like he had almost 20 points last night. He over 5x'd, which isn't great, but that was also it seemed to be pretty close to his floor. He didn't do great while he was out there. He didn't get a ton of minutes, and he still 5x'd his price tag. So I don't mind getting to Olenek. Grant's one of the better plays on the slate. If you do really like this game and you're okay with eating the chalk, going Ball, Bridges, Rozier, Grant, and Olenek on FanDuel leaves you a ton of money left, and all of them project to be strong plays. So that may even be a cash game route tonight. It's not like it's that big of a slate that you're worried about game stacking. So it's not the sexy play, but they project well. So
yeah, I don't like Detroit's one of my least favorite teams to mess with. DFS just the perspective in general. I just don't like their team. Yeah. All right. Well, what do you have for Justin as far as the Pistons?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, like, do we think Cade Cunningham's going to play? Because
I think no, but I'm guessing. What do I know?
Well, I don't know much either. I don't even know what we're doing. We're talking basketball, right? But I think, if Cade Cunningham doesn't play, I have interest in these Pistons because every team that plays Charlotte is interesting for sure. No defense, pretty fast pace, a lot of fantasy points. Sadiq Bey's been having some monster games here and there. Jeremy Grant maybe finally rounding into form a little bit. Looked pretty good against Memphis. Took him a couple games to get his feet under him. 6K. This is a 7 to 8K guy typically when he's right. So I do have some interest in the Pistons here. Kelly Olynyk, are you willing to play him when he plays about 20 minutes? Against Charlotte, I think anybody has a pretty high ceiling. So I kind of disagree. I in generally speaking, the Pistons are yuck vomit, right? But I think against Charlotte, I think we could pick our spots tonight for sure. I think Sadiq Bey and Jeremy Grant are for sure in play.
We haven't seen Olynyk play more than 21 minutes since coming back. Do you think it's like they're easing him back, or again, they didn't play him in blowout run last night? Like, is there a ceiling? Is there a scenario where he can play like 27, 28, which we've seen happen before, just not since he came back from his injury? What do you think?
I don't know. I was following the game flow last night and I was a little disappointed. So I'm leaning towards probably not, unless Stewart gets ejected or in a foul trouble or something. And I don't really want to dig into that range of outcomes because it's super unlikely.
Oh, it's happened before this year.
I know. He tried to kill LeBron. I mean, we all saw it. So he gets handsy literally. So yeah, I don't know. I mean, listen, we've seen him on the flip side here, and we could all agree we've seen him crush in limited minutes before too. I don't know. We'll see if there's any more news that breaks before slate. I'm okay with it because it's Charlotte, like I said, but I don't know what kind of ownership's he carrying on FanDuel.
Yeah, because he's 3.5K over there. And my thought is that we might get news that's going to like maybe put him to the back of the line a little bit more, or bump him back. But if we don't get any news, we currently have him at 37% ownership at 19 minutes and 22 fantasy points.
Wow. Yeah.
Which is,
he's 4K on DK, and like really nobody's that interested in him. So might be more of a tournament play on DK.
Yeah.
I think also, on DK, does he have power forward eligibility?
He does.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, that's helpful.
I feel like that's why he's nice on FanDuel, is you can put him in that power forward slot. But I guess if it's on DK too, that doesn't really explain the disparity.
Yeah.
Other than that, anytime somebody's cheaper on FanDuel than they are on DK, they typically look good.
We also might get somebody like Facu Campazzo drawing a start. It's still minimum Denver. Like he's again, I'm just trying to think of different ways that salary can open up. Currently, we have Austin Rivers drawing the start, and that could be Campazzo, that could be Rivers, that could be Bones Highland, that could be Bryn Forbes, any number of those guys. And maybe they're all worthless because they all kind of eat each other, which is another thought process. But in theory, somebody would get there on that Denver side, with their as far as the cheapies. All right. Anything else this game, or are we moving on, boys?
On to the next.
I just one more thing. I think it's worth noting that, speaking of easing guys back in, Jeremy Grant didn't play the fourth quarter at all. Sadiq Bey ran the whole fourth quarter.
Yeah.
So what the hell?
It was weird. Yeah. I don't know why they were so selective. Like let's just let Bey play the entire fourth quarter, even though we're getting
it was the starting lineup, but then they subbed out Grant for Frank Jackson. And I was looking at it like, oh, they're up 25. Maybe Kelly Olynyk is in. And I was so confused because I was like, why is Isaiah Stewart in there? Then I look and I see Bey and Diallo, all of these things.
You know,
And it's
so
also the front end of a back-to-back. Like normally, like if it's the front end of a back-to-back or the back end, like you're call the dogs off early. Like this game's over. We got the rest up for tomorrow. And again, Detroit's going nowhere. Like they don't really wins and losses, whatever. Like they don't really, they're not necessarily trying to win. That just kind of takes care of itself just by being Detroit. But I don't know. I don't know what the thought process is there.
Well, I'm less worried about Jeremy Grant since he didn't play the fourth quarter. And I know, like, you know, they're borderline tanking, but there aren't many winnable games on the schedule. And maybe Charlotte's one of them. Maybe we just want to get one, you know? I'm okay with running Jeremy Grant back if he's not going to carry a ton of ownership. I mean, they're basically just like butting heads with the Magic for the worst record. I mean, Houston's kind of close, but they have plenty of other games to tank. Might as well get one against Charlotte.
It's not that they're tanking. That was like a reverse tank, if anything. You're playing their better players when the game's already over. And
well, they don't have.
It's organic. It's going to take care of itself. But I understand what you're saying. But like,
yeah,
like
you're right. They're
if you're
terrible.
Detroit and you're trying to win, what are you doing differently? I guess you bring Cunningham back, which it seems like it's taking a little longer than it possibly should be. But why would you
bold
bring
strategy, Cotton?
Yeah, I don't understand any of it, basically. All right. Cleveland, Indiana, 214.5 is the total. Indiana is a 6-point dog here. Of course, we have instant revenge, first blood for Karis LeVert. What revenge? He was there for this is his first season there, I believe, right? Yeah, he was just traded there. So LeVert's going to run the show instead of Garland. Garland, of course, is out tonight. No Lauri Markkanen. Indiana. Speaking of guys that like Malcolm Brogdon is questionable again. And what was the last time he played? Halliburton, we're expecting to be available. Hield expected to be available. Isaiah Jackson, we don't know. Jalen Smith seems unlikely, but I guess he's not officially ruled out. Terry Taylor, I see, is questionable with an illness. I'm not sure if that's been changed or not. And Tristan Thompson available with air quotes, but who knows? TJ Brogdon, is he going to play this game, Brogdon? Like, when is the last time he's played?
I doubt Brogdon's going to play this one. And I think a lot of the air quotations on Jalen Smith and Tristan Thompson depend a lot on Isaiah Jackson and Terry Taylor. Both of those guys are good to go. I don't think we have to worry about even projecting Thompson or Smith for anything. But if both of those guys are out, I think all of a sudden we see Goga stepping in to pick up a lot of minutes, Brissett being his immediate backup. And if all of a sudden all hell breaks loose, that's the type of way we could see Tristan Thompson. And so that's why I think he's available.
Yeah.
Go
ahead.
Overall, it's tough to not want to take a wait and see approach because like, obviously we had Lance Stevenson go nuts last game, but now they have Halliburton there, and Halliburton's price is pretty nice. I haven't checked his DK one. His FanDuel price is pretty nice, but it's just still so tough to know on a new team. So if he's still going to end up being like ridiculously low owned, like it says he's going to be right now, like I'm assuming we haven't updated everything there. I'm guessing he'll probably be closer around the 10% range, but I think I'm going to play 150 tonight. So I'll have him in the pool.
I think he gets a significant bump if Brogdon doesn't play, right? That seems to be reasonable.
Big time.
We're getting Pacers. We're getting Pacers news right now.
Oh, okay,
Taylor out, Brogdon out, and Isaiah Jackson in.
Okay. Oh, okay. Taylor out, and Taylor played some 5 the other day out because that's the interesting thing is that you need big boys against Cleveland.
And so Isaiah Jackson is in.
He's interesting. How much is he?
He's still priced up quite high on FanDuel. I'm checking to see what his DK price is.
5.6 DK, 6.6 FanDuel. Yeah. And Goga, they're probably going to split it, and Brissett's there too. And Thompson's available in air quotes. So maybe nobody. Well,
I think Jackson's reasonable on DK if he starts, just because he's a very strong points per minute guy, and they seem to be impressed with him and wanting to get him more run. If he doesn't start, then I don't have the same amount of interest in him. Other than that, I think it's pretty muddied and not very interesting.
Yeah, Jackson's the best fantasy point minute player on Indiana right now. On FanDuel, 1.34. That's a big old number. And 1.26 on DK. He turned his ankle in that, in this, he was the chalkiest player in the very first play of the game about a week ago or so.
I didn't have him that night, and I still didn't cash.
Oh, man. I didn't have him in one lineup, and that one lineup crushed. And everybody else, I did cash some with him in it, like mid cash or something like that. But whatever, I'm sure a lot of people did as well. So how excited are we for Tyrese with the absence of Brogdon? And it's tricky because he's just meeting these guys for the first time, and like you have to have some sort of cohesion when you're the point guard, right? Like, it's basketball, but still there's a system. You got to kind of learn it in the fly. It's just how it's going to go. But I assume the ball is going to be in his hands, right, TJ?
Yeah, I think so. That's why, like, I'm interested in having him in some of my lineups just because they're loaded in the forward position, but they don't really have many good guards right now. Like, I don't think Dwayne Washington and Kiefer Sykes and Lance Stevenson are playing big minutes because the Pacers want them to play big minutes. And so we got note that Jalen Smith is going to be available to play in this game. So that money's up the front court even more. But
Another big body.
I don't mind taking some shots on Buddy Hield and Tyrese Halliburton just in case they're full go and ready to go, just because their prices are nice.
We'll know this 7:00 game. Do you think Buddy starts or no? We currently have him not starting for what it's worth.
I don't think so, but if he does, I'll like him a heck of a lot more.
Yeah, he could still close, obviously. 5-1.
But like we also had Brogdon projected starting and he's out. So
correct. Yeah. But I mean, they might start.
And we have
Rams.
Brissett projected starting, and they just seem to hate playing him. So we'll see how it goes.
I think if he's good to go, I think Brissett goes to the bench and Jackson starts.
Yeah, and they might go two bigs with Goga and Jackson just based on the team that they're playing. I think that
Mobley and Allen match up.
Yeah.
Luch, what do you have as far as the Pacers? Your thoughts on all these guys being thrown out there? Buddy Hield is really cheap. I'll say that. We don't know, and also they lost. Craig. Torrey Craig is another Pacer that's been lost. Kind of thins out their wings. And he has cohesion with Halliburton. They at least know each other. Like, so that if Halliburton wants to lean on somebody, you can hook him up for some assists, of course. What do you have here, Luch, as far as the Pacers and the news obviously breaking on the fly, and then feel free to jump over to the Cavs.
It's just a disaster. This is probably the biggest mess on the slate per team right now. I just, and it's Cleveland, so I'm okay with just not having exposure to this game if I'm only playing a couple of lineups. I love the idea of playing Halliburton because he'll be on an island, but he's 84 on DK. I'm more comfortable with paying that 7 whatever price tag on FanDuel. I just don't know. If you're a gifted passer and you're a slasher and you can get to the lane, you can play with anybody. So I'm not really worried about it. And I saw our guy Grant had a cool assist write-up about Halliburton on Scores and Odds today too. So definitely check that out. So I'm not as much worried about that. The matchup's just not great. Now, if they were playing Charlotte per se, or someone who was completely terrible, I would definitely consider these guys a lot more. I love Isaiah Jackson's price. Definitely a point per minute producer. We've seen it. However, I'm a little worried, as young as he is, if it's a 20-point game in the third, is he all the way healthy? Or are they just going to let him take it easy with his ankle? Like, to what degree is it worth the risk, rostering him at center only on DK? I'm not sure what he is on FanDuel, but center only on DK at a position where I see Embiid or Jokic or Towns or Vooch is just, it's tough for me to get there. Even when I'm putting my contrarian hat on, I still can't do it. So not going to have a ton of exposure here. If Jackson was out, that would have made Brissett a fantastic play. Great play. Again, we don't know about his minutes now. I would, we have him projected at 28 minutes. That's with Terry projected in though. So I don't know. He might still project well, but I'm a little wary on Brissett's minutes. Kind of like the same Kelly Olynyk issue. Like Olynyk will definitely most likely play less minutes than Brissett. Just two cheap forwards where it's like, he might go for 12 in your lineup shot, right? I don't know. So I'm pumping the brakes on Indy. And Cleveland, I guess I have mild tournament interest in the bigs, and I'm just going to segue there. Hope you don't mind.
Go for it.
Mobley 6,700 is a nice price on DK. You have all these, no offense to the Pacers, nobody's in the Indy front court, and Mobley's been great. Love's been great. Jared Allen's been doing his thing all year, but that's the problem. They've all been so good. They've all been splitting minutes. Kevin Love wasn't supposed to be playing 25 minutes a game. He was supposed to probably be on some other team, but the Cavs decided to be good at basketball, and he's become an asset to them. So honestly, it's probably a pass for me on Cleveland, but I do have a little bit of tournament interest in the Kevin Love. For me, that's it on Cleveland.
What do you have, TJ, as far as the Cavs? I want to be interested in LeVert, but the price tag is telling me not to be. But then you're supposed to in tournaments, right? Like nobody's going to play him.
Something about being on this show just makes me want to play more and more and more lineups because I always consider things I usually don't. So I'm playing 150 tonight, and
let's do it.
I will have Levert in my pool, even though he's crazy expensive, even though he's objectively a bad play. I'll put 2-3% in just for I'm playing against all my boys and I want to show up against them. They don't have Darius Garland right now. It's not like they have a bunch of wing scorers. All their scorers are front court players. So you never know if he's the ball handler and a lot of pick and rolls. He gets hot, something could happen. So I'll play him on a limited capacity. And I think that's going to be the same thing with Jared Allen, Evan Mobley, Kevin Love. I'm not going to be playing them together. I'll probably set a group, but I'll be mixing and matching them, sprinkling them into lineups.
Yeah, I mean, our ownership stuff was like from an hour ago. So, things have obviously changed. I'm taking a look what we have as far as Cleveland an hour ago, and nobody really popping on DK. The biggest ownership number is Kevin Love at 14%, then Mobley at less than 10%. You mentioned Levert. 1%. Like you can get 4% and you're 4x the field. Like, okay, maybe
exactly.
He's 2%, whatever it is. It's gonna be less than 5. It's gonna be a low number on both FanDuel and on DK. And your favorite, you said you're gonna play them all, but do you have a favorite amongst the three? Love, Mobley, Allen. I mean, this feels like one of those games where Allen can get 18 and 17 with a couple stocks, or it feels like you can get a bunch of boards against a Spacer team.
Yeah, probably. Maybe Allen, but honestly, I think probably Kevin Love, just because he's significantly cheaper than the rest of them. And Indiana has they're low on guards, but they're big on front court players. Same like Cleveland right now. So Cleveland's been doing some stuff lately where they're closing with Allen at the 5, Love at the 4, and Mobley at the 3. So if they're doing that again, then yeah, I don't mind Kevin Love if he's going to be getting over 30 minutes again.
We mentioned Prize Picks in passing. If you guys are not playing on Prize Picks just yet, go ahead and use the promo code Grinders with your very first deposit for a 100% deposit bonus up to $100. And I believe both you guys have some selections. I had a couple selections as well too for the people to help them get started. I put real live American dollars, not loonies and toonies, but actual American dollars on these players. Yeah, TJ, what do you have as far as your picks there on Prize Picks?
I don't know if I want to tell you just because you're coming at my currency saying my money doesn't count as much as I put my Prize Picks dollars in.
I think it's amazing your money's called loonies and toonies. I think it's hilarious.
I mean, it's only two coins are called that. They're not all called that. But anyways, for Prize Picks tonight, I'm happy we're doing it now because all of my picks are from this Charlotte and Detroit game, which we have just recently been touching on. The first one, I love LaMelo Ball over 6.5 rebounds. That just seems way too low for him. He's playing way more minutes than he had been when he just started coming back from COVID, and the numbers are showing it. So I really like Ball over 6.5 rebounds. Same thing on the other side of that game, Sadiq Bey over 5 rebounds. They got rid of Trey Lyles. Sadiq Bey is playing all of the minutes right now. And Charlotte's a team that doesn't rebound the ball that well. And so I like Sadiq Bey over 5 rebounds. And the final one is Terry Rozier under 5 assists. Even with Gordon Hayward out, his assist rate doesn't go up at all. Sure, his minutes will bump a bit, but this is a team where LaMelo has the ball in his hands, excuse my pun, all the time. And when Rozier is getting it, it's usually to catch and shoot. And so I like under 5 assists for Terry Rozier, over 5 rebounds for Sadiq Bey, and over 6.5 rebounds for LaMelo Ball.
Justin?
Yeah, I just posted in chat. I was today years old when I learned that you have currency called loonies and toonies, and for that I apologize, or maybe I feel slighted that maybe I deserve to know that. I don't know. It's pretty cool nonetheless. Like we have dimes, pennies, nickels. Like who cares?
A looney's $1 and a toonie's a $2, correct?
Oh,
yeah. So like we have all the same as you guys do, because you guys don't even have the 50-cent coin anymore. Hey, that's basically been taken out.
it's
it's more or less obsolete.
It's like
you'll see it every once in a while.
Yeah, so we have like pennies don't have them anymore, but then just like nickels, dimes, quarters, loonies, toonies.
That's awesome.
And we don't have like our lowest bill is $5.
Yeah.
See, I like that. That's cool.
Yeah.
Anyway, what did you ask me, Dean? Sorry.
They're all different colors. They smell they smell like maple. You can put them in the washer and you can put them in you can put them in the washer and the dryer and they'll come out good as new. You can't physically tear them. Like they don't rip.
That is a common complaint about American currency, that like they all look the same. People say like they all look they're all the same color. But go ahead. Well, your picks for prize picks. What do you have, Justin?
Oh, prize picks. Gotcha. All right. So I'm in the overs only club today on prize picks. I have Terry Rozier, who is going to be extremely owned on Daily Fantasy Sports FanDuel. Over 19.5 points. Listen, he's going to play 40 minutes if it's competitive. Nothing new there. No Gordon Hayward. I like it. I have Darius Baisley over 12.5 points as well for OKC. Hopefully it's not a complete bloodbath. And I kind of don't think it's going to be completely out of control. So over 12.5, he's covered it a lot over his last 10 games, especially without SGA, without Aaron Wiggins. They're missing a host of guys. So Rozier over 19.5, Baisley over 12.5, and one more. Devin, great name by the way, Vassell over 12.5. Derek White is gone. We have him projected for about 32 minutes, and he should, in theory, score about 14 points on average. I don't mind targeting Atlanta with shooting guards. So those are my three, and they're all overs today, and I'm feeling pretty good about it.
Yeah, I'm a duplicate as far as the Rozier over. He's played at least 39 minutes in 5 of his last 6 games. The one was goofy. It was a blowout. That's why I didn't play. But yeah, I'll take the over 19.5. Good matchup there against Detroit. And I think Thibault is going to play a bunch of minutes because Philadelphia is thin. And yeah, he's going to eke his way, but he's got the perfect matchup of FanDuel scoring, which is what they have on prize picks. He's going to get like 4 or 5 stocks, and that basically gets him there over 20. So I got over 20 for Thibault today as my prize picks selection. Next game is San Antonio at Atlanta. 233.5 is the total. San Antonio 9-point dogs. Of course, they traded away Derek White. Goran Dragic not available. He might get bought out. Satoransky not available. They just traded for him. Josh Richardson, I don't think he's going to be available. Stay tuned on that. But and also Trey Jones has teeth. He had dental work, so he is questionable. But I'll throw it to you, TJ. We kind of we teased it earlier as far as your favorite big spend in the slate. I correctly guessed. I like him too. DeJounte Murray, tell him why you like him as a big spend tonight.
I like him because he is I think he is our 3rd highest projected scorer of the slate tonight. And he's only at 15% ownership right now. And maybe he'll creep up to 20, but he's still projected to be a lot lower than guys like Embiid. And so, he's up to a 1.55 point per minute player without Derek White, without Bryn Forbes on the court. If Trey Jones is out as well tonight, him, Vassell, and Walker are going to be playing all of the guard minutes. As well as maybe some Primo in there, but I love DeJounte Murray. He's my favorite spend-up option. Devin Vassell is one of my favorite mid-range options. If Lonnie Walker is in the starting lineup, I love him as well. And this is probably my favorite game of the slate.
Do you agree with that, Justin?
Great game environment. I like the calls a lot. Life after Derek White here for San Antonio. And Murray has killer upside and pretty good team totals, both sides here. So I feel like if you're playing Murray, and it's tough on FanDuel because typically that's the site where you can play multiple studs, anybody you want, right? Pricing's usually soft, but I feel like if you play Murray, I mean, I'm sure you're going to try to jam in Murray and Embiid. It depends what kind of value there is. It's not like last night. There's not a ton of value, but I'm sure it could be done. I think I would just want to play Murray without Embiid because if Embiid fails at that massive chunk of ownership, when Murray goes for 55, 60, you're sitting pretty. So just in terms of guys who have killer, 65, 70 point upside, my guess is if I'm playing Murray, I'm not touching that Philly OKC game because it does have a blowout risk for sure. I was lobbying for OKC keeping this game competitive and the Sixers playing down to their competition. But there's in reality probably equal chance maybe it does get ugly. So I wouldn't pair Murray and Embiid together on FanDuel, even though it's probably possible because typically it is to do something like that. I think he's a great play, great game environment. I think it's I think you can target many players on both sides in this game. Trae Young, 99. Of course, I rostered him when he couldn't hit the broadside of a barn a couple of games ago, and then he absolutely crushed in 29 minutes against Indy. That's right. I had the Luka Trey correlation, and Trey did nothing. And that was a low ownership, and that was a big difference for me.
9K on FanDuel for Trae Young is kind of egregious. That's an awesome play. But I
might have a new favorite value play on the slate.
Okay, so is it Zach Collins possibly?
Yeah, it is. We're on the same page tonight, Dean. Let's win some money.
I have questions about Zach Collins.
Okay.
Yeah, so he's played like 31 minutes all season long, right? But he's incredible in those 31 minutes as far as fantasy points per minute at like what 1.3, 1.4 or so. I suppose he's going to be the backup center tonight. He is popping on DK a little bit more so on FanDuel when you consider the prices. 3.5 on DK. I think he's 3.9 on FanDuel. Ooh, and by the way, Devin Vassell at what we're looking at 50% ownership on DK at 4K. Like, man, that's a huge number. But like, I understand why, and maybe this stuff will change again. Whereas that's still like an hour ago, and news has been creeping in. Talking about Zach Collins, because we're projecting 17 minutes, and that's I think what he got basically last game. Again, he's been awesome in his. Yeah, go ahead.
For his whole career, he's been a fantastic point per minute guy. They just got rid of Young and Eubanks, so there's no chance of that happening now. He played 17.9 minutes last game. Eubanks played a minute and a half. Landale played a minute and a half. Eubanks is no longer there. If he just gets that extra minute and a half and all of a sudden he's playing 19, 20 minutes and he's a quarter of the ownership as a guy like Kelly Olynyk, who you can play at the same position at power forward on FanDuel, I like Zach Collins quite a bit tonight.
Man, yeah, it's weird that we're looking at guys that are projected for 17 minutes as a play, but but there is a little bit more of a ceiling to that. I think. Would he play? No, I think we're chopping.
Well, and the thing is too, is it's like he's only played 2 games. His first game was 14. His second game was almost 18. It could be reasonable they ramp it up another 4 minutes.
Well, let me see this. Has he played alongside Pirtle at all this season? Let's put them both on the court, because my suspicion is no. But maybe like going forward, they'll do it. But I'm running the old court IQ. I'm buying some time as I'm hitting the button.
As you're buying time, if we're just trying to think about it from like a basketball standpoint, he used to play power forward when he was in Portland, and now they're playing against a team that has John Collins, Clint Capella, Okongwu. They usually play 2 guys over 6'10".
0 minutes for what it's worth alongside each other this year. I'm not saying it's not going to happen. I don't know. Situations have changed, and like just minutes have opened up for him in the absence of some other bigs. But yeah, if you think that's what we have. We have Pirtle at 31 and Collins at 17. We're projecting a direct backup, and maybe he can get there in 17 minutes. He's shown he's been good so far. Jump over to Atlanta. What do you have, TJ, as far as the Hawks?
Same thing. Like this game environment, especially on FanDuel, is just beautiful. We have Trae Young at only 9K, and at 40, he's going to be very owned, but he's just a fantastic play because he's way too cheap. This is going to be a fast-paced game. I love the idea of having Young and Murray in the same lineup and just hoping they run back and forth and turn the ball over lots, steal it from each other lots, jack up lots of threes. It's a very enjoyable one. I think sprinkling in guys from that Charlotte side that we like quite a bit, but this San Antonio Atlanta game, a lot of my pieces are going to be from here, especially Trae Young and DeJounte Murray.
What's your third favorite player in this game?
Vassell.
Yeah.
Other than Young, all of my favorite players are on the Spurs side, being Murray, Vassell, Walker, and Zach Collins. And then Trae Young I love. But other than that, yeah, I don't mind getting to a little John Collins, something like that in tournaments, but there's nobody I want to go out of my way for.
Collins games.
Maybe DeAndre Hunter DeAndre Hunter's a starter. I don't mind that.
What about Herter on DK, where he's 4.2? He's 5.5 on FanDuel, but 4.2 for Herter seems just a little bit too cheap. I'm okay on that. Yeah. If I land on that, I'm okay with it.
Yeah, if he's especially like he stays in the starting lineup, it's not bad, but they just have so many bodies right now that I don't love any of the guys outside of Trae, because they have Herter, they have Gallows back, Hunter's back, DeLon Wright's good to go, Bogdanovich is back. They just have so many wing players they can mix in there.
You got anything else there, Justin? Go ahead, Justin.
I love John Collins tonight at like no ownership. DK 6,600. He's carrying 14%, but even going up to get him on FanDuel at 3% as maybe a run back with DeJounte Murray. Capella virtually doesn't play the fourth quarter anymore. They hate Capella. Everyone gets Capella. They love Capella. They hate Capella, right? Like, see, couldn't fit with James Harden in Houston. Morey shipped him out so Harden could be surrounded by a great shooter at all time. Comes to Atlanta, everything was great for a while, and now he's just getting phased out. A lot of people are pounding that under prop points and boards lately because he's playing like 18 minutes a game. John Collins went through this little run where he just wasn't seeing a bunch of minutes, and we probably talked on it at some show at some point, but he was still producing. And I said, damn it, why can't we get John Collins some minutes, because he's been pretty good per minute. You know what? He's done nothing wrong, especially at 6,600. His last 4 games were really encouraging. He's shooting the ball well. He had a couple of really great rebounding games, 35 DK points against Phoenix, a great defensive team, 36.5 against Toronto. I mean, you can live with that at 66. Ceiling game against Dallas, 49.5. And then Indy, you see a blip in the game log there. He had 28 DK points, but he only played 20 minutes. He played 2 quarters, or like 2 in the third, like a little bit in the third quarter, because it was a blowout. So he was great per minute against Indy. I think Collins is trending in the right direction. And I love the Spurs game environment. Hello, puppy. How are you? So ADD's kicking in, and I didn't hear any bark. So clearly your dog's not on John Collins as much as the Charlotte guys. That kind of upsets me a little bit. But I'm going to stick with my guns here and play some John Collins.
Your dog's got a Marvel name, doesn't it?
No, this Star Wars. This is Obi-Wan.
Oh, okay. Well, same sort of whatever. To somebody like me, it's like the same. Close enough.
Yeah. I figured he might be less. I may be wrong, as he's already disrupted the conversation, but I figured he'd be less disruptive to the show if I gave him some attention.
That was like my test, and it failed. I'm like, dog. Oh wow, So damn it, take me off primetime.
Denver versus Boston. 218 is the total in this game. Boston 6-point favorite. They've won like 9 of their last 10 or so, blown out a bunch of teams. Denver, of course, without Morris. Cousins, I'm not really sure if he's available or not. Rivers expected to play. Boston, we're not sure if Tice or White are available to play. This is an interesting one, Justin, because we have Tatum and Brown right there. Generally, you don't like playing Boston when they're fully healthy, but they're in the midst of like losing some guys, and we're not sure if they got reinforcements, so they could have a pretty thin rotation. Pretty tight core this evening. What do you have as far as the Celtics? And I guess you got to start with Tatum and Brown, right? Justin?
Yeah, Tatum and Brown are always in play. I was responding to the dog picture in the chat, and of course, big dog guy here. We love him. If I try to pick up my dog, it would be a disaster. It'd probably knock over my computer. So kudos to you and Obi-Wan. That's awesome. I mean, is Derek White's in the city? You said correct. He's in the city. Don't know.
Yes, he's in Boston.
Don't know if we're gonna see him. Glad he has arrived safely. They're carrying more ownership on DK than I thought they would project it to be. I got to hit the refresh button, but Tatum and Brown both about that 25%. I think I can say the same thing about Boston every slate. You can play these two guys. My favorite tournament play is always going to be Robert Williams, because no one ever plays him because he's only optimal when he blocks 5 shots, but it happens once in a while. Do I feel great about that happening against Jokic? No, I don't. But at that ownership, if I'm throwing in 100 entries or something, I would definitely have some Robert Williams exposure, who isn't great on his baby narratives, by the way, in case anybody's planning ahead for when Tristan Thompson does his gender reveal and when the baby's coming around. The baby narratives haven't been working out so well in the show. But Bobby Williams always in play in large field tournaments. If I land on one of these guys on Boston, I'm okay with it, but I'm not forcing anybody here.
The chat's not having it, but they're very upset that I said Star Wars is the same thing as Marvel. I know it's not the same thing, but there's a Venn diagram of the people that like Star Wars and Marvel. And it's
Dean is messing this up, but I'll give him some credit because he was messaging me before the show. He's been watching some DC content. He's been watching Peacemaker.
Yeah, I mean, I'll give any HBO show a run almost always, and it's a lot of fun. It's I thoroughly enjoy it, and I'm not traditionally a Marvel guy. I don't hate it. Like, if you enjoy it, have at it, man. I don't whatever, man. Whatever makes you happy. But it's really good. Cena's awesome in it, and I'm an episode or 2 behind, so no spoilers. But I thoroughly enjoyed Peacemaker so far. And I saw you interviewed one of the actors. I'll have to check that out.
Yeah, I interviewed Chukwudi Iwuji. He's he plays Clemson Mern. He's going to be in Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. And who knows who he likes for basketball, but I'll tell you who I like on the Celtics tonight.
Who's that?
With the thing with Tatum and Brown is that while they do actually project pretty well tonight, they're priced low enough that these guys have 70-point ceilings. They have ceilings just as high as anybody else on the slate, and they have lower prices. And so they're not going to hit that ceiling outcome probably quite as often as the guys like LaMelo Ball, Trae Young, who are in better positions tonight, but they still have that outcome in them. So I like them. I like mixing them into tournaments. I'm probably not going to play them both together unless I was throwing them in a lineup with Jokic. But even then, I'm still probably not playing both them together. And I agree with Luch that Robert Williams, you can always play Robert Williams. He's got fantastic upside. He's volatile, but he's got a wonderful upside. So yeah, you can always play Robert Williams.
Nobody's playing anybody on Denver tonight, and that includes Jokic, which is wild. Jokic is probably gonna be like 10% owner or so on FanDuel, if that. On DK, we're looking at like 5% ownership possibly. Whoever is starting is going to be interesting, and we don't know who that's going to be. If it's Bones Highland, if it's Rivers, if it's Facu Campazzo, who hasn't played in a while, but they might dust him off and draw a start. He's 3K on DK. Maybe we know that by 7 o'clock. I kind of hope we do, but we might not. But whoever's going to be drawing the start there could be interesting. Do you have a guess there, TJ, as far as who's going to start for them, or just kind of wait and see in the absence of Morris?
My guess is Campazzo, just because that's who it was prior to Morris going down. And so even though he hasn't been playing a lot of minutes lately, I think they probably go Campazzo as a starter and then use Bones Highland as their as their second unit guy, kind of like they have been. The other option that I think they could do, just because I think Campazzo is in the doghouse a little bit, is start Will Barton at point guard. That's something they've done in the past as well. And so if they do that, I don't mind him. I feel like his ceiling goes up if he's starting at point guard a lot more than if he's playing on the wing. Campazzo at minimum price, I think he's doable if he starts. I'm not going to touch him if he doesn't. And Highland, even if Highland doesn't start, I think you can mix him in. If he does start, I think he becomes a very strong value play.
Yeah, that's pretty much where I'm at as well. Highland in the season, 0.95 DK points were in it, pretty solid. Worth noting, by the way, Boston has been the best defense by far in this calendar year. Last 15 games, they've been awesome. It's not a good matchup for Denver, and it's reflective in the ownership. Justin, is there anybody? I mean, of course.
And it's going to get better with Derek White.
Say it again?
And it's going to get even better with Derek White.
Yeah. Like Boston, defensively, they're tough. They're tough to play against. Pretty much all around.
Tough time to be a Knicks fan because every other team in that division got better yesterday.
Even Miami. I'm a Miami fan, and everybody got better around me too, right? We got rid of KZ Okpala, nobody else.
Who just got waived.
Yeah, from OKC, and that's that's a bad scene. Justin, you want to sell us anybody on Denver, or we know Jokic is a Jokic, and you can always play him, but what do you know with the Nuggets?
First of all, Derek White is unlikely to make his debut. So
okay.
Just having a good night, family time in the city, new city. We're talking about family time last night, get to relax, watch his new squad without him. So that doesn't really change much with the Celtics, I suppose. Denver.
Cunningham's going to play, by the way.
He's in?
Cade. Yeah, he's playing. Surprising.
Can we revisit that?
I don't know if time.
Okay. All right.
If we have time, we will. But yeah.
Okay. Well,
we'll have time. Let's rip through these games. We'll get there. We got 20 minutes left. We're good.
Bullet point. Do you like Cade or not now against Charlotte? I mean, yay or nay? I mean, just real quick. I mean, he's cheap. DK, he's like 67 or something.
Yeah, same price on FanDuel.
Yeah, that's a great FanDuel price at 6.7.
Yeah.
And obviously, like guys like Corey Joseph and Hamad Diallo are hurt by this. Like if that's not obvious.
Definitely. Okay. Anyway, Denver, I wonder if Campazzo was in the doghouse or what. I know he was available before the trade deadline, and that has passed. So maybe he'll be more involved now. Maybe they didn't want to risk an injury or something. I don't know. But he's great. He's the savvy veteran. He should be the guy that they want to trust. It's not like they're a rebuild team or anything like that. So actually won one of my couple sets of steak knives with Campazzo at low ownership this year. That was awesome. He had like a 60-point game, and I had him correlated right, and I just couldn't get there.
In a queue you're talking about, I assume?
Large field FanDuel, like the shot or whatever it was. So I came in like fourth, and like 45K difference between first. So, good old set of steak knives. Anyway,
stack corrections.
Yeah. So like if he starts, I have a ton of interest in him. The guy has a ton of upside. Weird situation there. Bones Highland was popping in projections earlier. I don't know, like who's gonna start? That's the question here. Campazzo could be interesting for tournaments for sure.
Let's talk about Minnesota, Chicago. The game environment is amazing. 241 is the total. Minnesota just a 3-point dog here. Dosunmu, I think we're expecting him to come back from his concussion. Minnesota's got a bunch of guys with Q tags, but I don't know if any of them are real. I'm just assuming they're all playing. I don't know. Like they did this the other night too, just throwing a Q tag on everybody, and everybody ended up playing except for maybe Naz Reid, who's got a knee, I believe. But yeah, game environment wise, if you're a game stacker, TJ, you got to pay for some of these studs, of course, but this is a pretty appealing game, no?
Yeah, absolutely. And like Anthony Edwards is one of those guys, and D'Angelo Russell, frankly, that when they're priced in the mid 7K like this, they're always interesting to mix into tournaments because they're volatile players, but they have 50-point plus ceilings. Towns is interesting. It's just, it's tough to get him on a slate that has Embiid and that has Jokic. And I feel like I've been saying that every single slate this year, just because I almost never get to Towns. But Jared Vanderbilt, interesting price. It's like you said, it's a good game stack type scenario. We can't go too in depth until we know more about these Q tags, but all of these guys are very high ceiling players in terms of Towns, Edwards, Russell, Vanderbilt, and even mixing in some Patrick Beverly if he plays.
Yeah, Beverly is really popping for us right now at 5.1K on FanDuel and 5.1 on DK. 44% ownership on FanDuel. That's a huge
that has
number.
to be something that's going to change.
I mean, well, I think it's one of those things that if he still has the Q tag at like 730, it's not going to be 44%. And again, I question these guys are really hurt. I don't know, because again, they did that goofy thing last time with us, and maybe they're just having fun. Whoever the social media guy is, I have no clue. But yeah, Justin, and like, if Edwards and Russell are out, if Cat is elevated, if Russell, you pretty clearly how that's going to work. If like one of the stars are out, the other ones are going to rise up. Dosunmu probably hits White. I assume Dosunmu's going to play. White, his minutes will fall back a little bit. Justin, what do you have as far as this game?
Yeah, you guys hit a lot of the talking points. I typically don't play Towns when the rest of Minnesota's big three are active. Pat Beverly is cheap. We've seen some upside out of him this season, which is strange but true. And real question, would you rather have Pat Beverly or Russell Westbrook right now? Who would you rather have?
I'll take Pat Bev. He's a good tweeter too.
Depends on my team.
Producer Steve says Beverly too.
Depends on my team. If I got 4 guys who can shoot around me, I'm still taking Westbrook, but on the Lakers, I'd take Beverly.
Fair, yeah. The Lakers have no shooters either. You have no
exactly.
shooters.
That's the biggest problem. Is like Russell Westbrook is obviously like going downhill, but he could not be in the worst possible situation for him either.
Yeah.
Trey Jones, by the way, and his teeth, he's going to be available tonight. He's good to go.
All right.
Go ahead, continue.
Glad he has teeth. That's good.
Yeah, it's good. Him and his teeth will be there.
So Beverly is questionable, right? Like Beverly's truly questionable. Have we heard anything otherwise on him? If Beverly's out, I like D'Angelo Russell. Seems to just have these monster games when he has the ball in his hands, like more. And we saw that last game. I know it's only one game, but we've seen it in the past with him too. Whenever you get point D'Angelo, the assist rate goes up, things start to click. He had just a monster game against Sacramento. 31+% usage rate in his last 3 games since he's came back. And that's with Edwards and Towns both active. So I feel like Russell is a great tournament play. The Bulls have been so bad defensively, guys. So bad. So I think D'Angelo Russell is squarely in my pool, regardless of who's in, who's out. But I like him a lot more if Beverly sits.
Yeah, I mean, the Bulls obviously hurting with the absence of Caruso on the defensive end. Just in the last 10 games, they're fourth worst in all of basketball when it comes to defensive rating. Not just Caruso, but Ball was another guy. Kobe White, not known as a great defender, obviously. I think Desomo's pretty solid from what we've seen so far, for what it's worth, and we're expecting him back tonight. TJ, give me this. Assuming everybody's in Minnesota, what else can we do at this point? Your favorite play on each side of this game?
Assuming everyone is in for Minnesota, I think my favorite play would be Anthony Edwards on their team. And for Chicago, it would be Kobe White. 4,400 on FanDuel.
Okay, yeah, the FanDuel price is still pretty good on White. Yeah. He's going to be hurt. By Dosunmu, like not enough, is what you're saying.
Yeah, and that's if Dosumu's out, that would be beneficial for him. But these other prices, like they're good, and I'm gonna have them in, like these players have such high upsides. I'll have them in my tournament pool. But Zach LaVine would be number one then if Dosumu's in, just because 9-8 for Vucevic and 10-4 for DeRozan. That's just it's tough.
Same question, Justin. Favorite play on each side of this game, assuming everybody's playing.
It's tough. For both sides. Actually, hold on, let me think about this for a second. On Minnesota, for both sides, it's D'Angelo Russell. On Chicago, Zach LaVine's price on FanDuel, $1,200 cheaper than DK.
Yeah.
Monster game since he's came back. Revenge game on top of it. Everyone loves a good revenge game. I think it's LaVine on FanDuel for me, and at only 10%.
Bones Highland is going to be starting for the Nuggets.
He's going to be popular, like right away.
Bones Highland is now a very good play.
Yeah. Does Facu Campazzo not play now, or is he still get some run?
Maybe he gets some run, but he's not going to be in my pool.
Yeah. Well, he's 3K on DK. I guess more of a DK question than a FanDuel question.
I'd love to get a herd away. What am I trying to say here? Ahead of the herd with knowing that answer, and maybe take a few shots tonight and some like low dollar stuff, because his upside is tremendous, especially at no salary at 3K.
So, Rivers is also 3K, by the way.
Oh man.
Like he's another guy that he can hit 5 or 6 threes. He can do that.
This Bones Highland stuff really puts a wrench in my plan to go young ball Vassal Murray as my 4 guards on FanDuel, because now I have a 5th guard that I got to throw in the pool, and I really don't know what I'm going to do with it.
Let's knock out the hammer. That is Utah versus the Orlando Magic. This looks like a bit of a scheduled blowout. The Magic are currently 14-point dogs to the Utah Jazz. 222.5 is the total. TJ, I'm going to throw it to you, and you may have your superhero of the day play, and I imagine somebody in chat has guessed that, and I imagine Devin or Steven has contacted them and given them 1 week free of RG Premium. Who's going to say the day for us on the Magic?
So our superhero play of the day in the Utah Jazz Orlando Magic game. Yeah, it's been guessed a lot. So hopefully Devin or somebody in there got the first person, Cole Anthony. Jalen Suggs is still questionable tonight, and Anthony's been a volatile player all year. But one thing that is not in question is his huge ceiling. And so this is a big spread, but if they happen to keep the game close somehow, Cole Anthony is going to be the reason. He's at 7K on FanDuel. It's still a good price for him. And if Suggs doesn't play, he's going to be racking up lots and lots of minutes. So Cole Anthony is my superhero play of the day to save you when your lineups are back against the wall and you need somebody in the late game to build you up.
If you're playing Anthony, do you feel obligated to run it back with somebody in the Utah side? And if you do, who is that person in the Jazz? Gobert, officially questionable. Gay is out with his knee.
I don't feel obligated, but my favorite player to run it back with would be Bogdanovic. They got no Gay on the wing there. They've added Nickeil Alexander-Walker, but Bogdanovic, he can slide up and play the 4 a little bit, and he's not projected very highly owned, and his projection is currently 5x his price. So he's one of those guys that he gets hot. 35 points is definitely in the realm of possibility. I don't feel like I have to run it back though. Donovan Mitchell, he's fine. My favorite sneaky play from this game, and it's definitely only more so the case if Rudy Gobert is in, and that's Mo Bamba. We've talked about him lots when I've been on the show. Dean Mo Bamba always seems to be projected 1-2% owned. I've talked about him twice now. I think the one time he had like 15 DK points and the other time he had like 53. And so anytime Mo Bamba is very low owned and plays against the center that loves to stay in the key, I love playing Mo Bamba because that's how he blocks shots. And the other team center doesn't get out and cover him on the 3-point line. So 4.8K on FanDuel. I like Mo Bamba, especially if Rudy Gobert is in. That's somebody I'm going to try and get 5-6x the field on.
All right. Interest of time, Justin, feel free to tell us about your thoughts as far as Orlando, Utah. Try to be quick. I want to knock out these questions we have compiled from chat as well, but anything you want to add as far as Orlando and Utah, feel free to go for it.
Donovan Mitchell or nobody for me from this game. That's pretty much it. Mitchell's been great since he came back. 2 very high usage games. Last game he only made 5 shots. Didn't shoot a free throw either, but still got there because he had some peripherals. So I'm if I can get a last guy in here, that's fine. I'm not crazy about this game. There's absolutely blowout risk in this one too. It's not exactly the late night hammer we would like on a Friday, but if you have an interest in Cole Anthony, maybe pair him with Donovan Mitchell. Mitchell's always in play for tournaments, especially when they're healthier-ish, because he'll still have those outlier games. He's under 9K. So I do have interest in Donovan Mitchell, but that's kind of it for me.
If I've been following the conversation correctly, I feel like TJ is playing more FanDuel and Justin's playing more DK. Is that correct?
Yeah, I'm on DK
absolutely
today.
Okay, because the questions have been, they're specifying as far as DK, as far as FanDuel. So Justin, you're going to get the DK questions. TJ, you're going to get the FanDuel questions. Lip wants us to know, this is a general question, so I'll ask TJ about it. Oh, and shout out to Lip. He won 20K last night in the I think the late 3-game slate. Congrats to him.
And happy birthday. It's his birthday.
Oh, there you go.
Happy
How old
birthday.
turn? Happy birthday.
I don't know. Maybe we can have a guessing game how old Lip turned and what do we win? What do we win, Lip, if we
What is Lip's avatar? I think that would be helpful. I need additional information. I want a game theory it. Tell me about Bones Highland. Why am I playing him? Well, tell him about Bones Highland there, TJ.
All right. Well, I'll tell you about Bones Highland because he's almost a points per minute player. And he's one of those guys that whenever he gets the minutes, he produces well, but he's typically stuck in that 14 to 18 minute game because they have so many other point guards on the team. And Monte Morris had been playing very well as of late. And now Monte Morris has a concussion. So now that we know that he's starting, we're probably going to be projecting him for upper 20s minutes. And I'm expecting he's probably going to be projected once we have this updated for around like 6-7x's price tag.
DK question, Justin, this is for you, obviously. Thibault, any interest in Thibault tonight? We've kind of thrown him out there a couple times.
Man, he's a guy who could get there with garbage stats, defensive stats, but with Maxey and who are we waiting for? And Shake Milton, are they in? Maxey's in, right?
They're both in. They're
both in. I know that was like 40 tweets ago. I have less interest in Thibault. I'm not going to get there tonight.
Thoughts on Peyton Pritchard? Looks like White is out. That Pritchard feels still pretty ambitious. How much is he? Is he flat minimum? Anybody have a Peyton Pritchard take for Boston? He's 3.6 on DK.
Not for me. No.
It seems a little bit ambitious, but again,
we have too much really good value on this slate to go there.
Yeah, that's pretty much my thought process as well. Any interest in Gary Harris if Suggs is out? Justin, you like Harris if Suggs doesn't play?
I like Cole Anthony more if Suggs doesn't play, but maybe that's a better TJ question since he was looking at the Magic. Not really.
Yeah, not for me either. There's just like, we have for a 7-game slate, we have a lot of great cheap value. And so I don't think we have to reach for those guys tonight. I think we just get to mix and match with the multitudes of guys we've named. Like we have Highland and the San Antonio players. So I don't think we got to dive too deep there.
I believe Vassal's officially starting. Yeah, he's starting for what it's worth. Yeah. Rivers is probable with his hip. So Vassal's going to be very popular as well. Your favorite 4K player under value play? Give me somebody besides Vassal, Justin. That's like a Chico. That's the obvious one at 4K. I guess Bones is the other one. Do you have anybody
Zach Collins.
There you go. Okay, that's an interesting one.
I'm kind of feeling some Zach Collins. Not gonna lie. I mean, it's risky, but for sure have some large field shares of him. Like for sure have a couple.
Justin, DK tournaments need a forward 7K and under. Your favorite forward on DK doesn't specify what position, just an F. 7K or less. What do you have for me? I'll give you a second. What do you think of Al Horford, TJ?
He's not going to be somebody I'm going for tonight.
Man,
This is going to be a slow defensive game.
Got a bark.
Unless he's the one guarding Jokic, I don't love it, because this seems to be a matchup that they're probably not going to be able to play their two center lineups a ton. But then again, if they don't have White healthy, if they don't have White yet and Schroeder's gone, they might have to. So we'll see. But at 6K, he's definitely not among my favorites. There's a lot of other guys I like more. I'd rather pay down $500 for Vanderbilt, or who else do we have the same range? Even like 200 cheaper for Isaiah Stewart, who I don't love, but I'd rather play than Horford, I think.
Justin, you got that answer? 7K forward or less on DK, your favorite for tournaments.
Yeah, forward kind of stinks on on DK today.
Yeah.
Lower guys, I don't mind some of these Atlanta guys we talked about. Herder, didn't really mention DeAndre Hunter. I don't mind them. But I think Kevin Love's interesting if you want to play like 50-point upside guys.
DK again, you like Kobe White or Marcus Smart? They're both the same price, 5.4K.
No.
You go on play on FanDuel instead, and you play Kobe White where he's 4.4.
Hey man, I'm just reading the questions. I would take Smart if you really want. That would be my answer. Smart.
I mean, if you like narratives, and we all love a narrative, I feel like Smart's minutes, maybe he'll feel threatened with Derek White in town, because I feel like he takes things personally. And
sorry, didn't mean to cut you off.
No, it's like, let's go get 6 steals because of Marcus Smart today, but I don't really have interest in either.
Exactly. I don't like either, but if you're picking one of the two, it's Marcus Smart, just because he's guarding a backup point guard. He doesn't have a backup point guard. He's a guy that racks up a lot of stocks. Right. He has potential upside, and DK, his price is a lot better.
He can get there while playing bad if he gets the defensive points.
Exactly.
Shout out to Casey Douglas for winning 1 week free of RG Premium, guessing correctly, I presume, on that Cole Anthony guess. TJ, they want you to rank the Book of Boba Fett on a scale of 1 through 5. Well, 5 being the best. We gotta go, but be efficient. If you can just throw a number on it. I know you can go 20 minutes in this, probably maybe an hour.
3.8 out of 5. Some of the highest highs you're gonna get in all of Star Wars, but a couple of storytelling woes throughout the way.
Justin, your favorite Detroit player to run it back in a game stack? They have Bay now, but now Cade is in there. You said you wanted to talk about Cade. Favorite run back on Detroit, and again, be efficient. We got to go because crunch time's on layaway.
Oh, efficient's not in my wheelhouse.
I understand. Same.
I would play Cade on FanDuel at that price, regardless of if we have word of how many minutes he's going to play. Rod Beard is one of the best DFS beat writers. Well, not DFS beat writers. NBA beat writers, talks a lot of DFS is what I meant. If we follow him to get minutes news, if the wheels are off on Cade Cunningham, I might even fire him up at 8K and DK in some tournaments too.
Give me a Super Bowl prediction, TJ.
Rams.
All right, Justin.
Rams 24-20.
Rams 27-17.
It's all gamblers. You gotta give us a score. You can't just give us a winner like money line.
Yeah, I'm better at answering the Star Wars questions. No, Rams 27, Bengals 17, and Odell Beckham Jr. is the Super Bowl MVP.
There you go. I think Rams win by at least 10. There's a defensive touchdown for the Rams. All right, we got to step aside and get out of here. Make way for crunch time. Do appreciate y'all watching us. Hit that like button on your way out on the old YouTube. Do subscribe. Do turn on notifications. That was TJ. That was Justin. That was producer Steven. You guys were the audience. This was basketball. I was Dean. We're out of here. Oh.